No, you look at Orange County, I like it is.
We'll bring this regular meeting of the Clearlake City Council Redevelopment Successor Agency to order at 6 p.m. on September 17th. And you all please, Madam Clerk, first, would you please go to the roll call?
Councilmember Purdock,
Here.
Councilmember Overton,
Here.
Councilmember Harris,
Here.
Vice Mayor Sluten,
Here.
Mayor Kramer.
Here. You all please stand for the pledge of allegiance and Vice Mayor Slaughter, would you please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you all remain standing for the invocation, Mr. Henkel, please.
Thank you. Father, we just come to you today, Lord, and we ask for your wisdom and your help. Father, give us clear minds to make good decisions today. And Father, we know that you are faithful to do your part when we call upon your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Henkel. May be seated. Okay, as always with our meeting procedures, all items on the agenda will be open for public comments before final adoption and statement. Citizens wishing to introduce written material into the records at the public meetings. On any item, we request to provide a copy of the written material to the Administrative Service Director, to the clerk, prior to the meeting date, so the material may be distributed to City Council prior to the meeting. Speakers must restrict comments to 3 minutes on each item as they appear on the agenda. Mayor, myself, has discretion in limiting the total discussion time if we have more speakers. While we're operating under virtual meeting guidelines, I will, I'm not going to read that again, but we will be calling the clerk to read those comments that are sent in, and then any of you wish to speak on Zoom, you'll be given your opportunity. So we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. Mr. City Manager, do you have any modifications?
Yes, one just minor modification. I would prefer that we take up item 11 before item 10, but other than that, no change.
Okay. So we'll move 11 to 10. Okay. Then is there any, with that one item, do we have a motion and a second?
So move to approve the agenda with the changes.
Second.
A motion's been made by Councilmember Overton and seconded by Councilmember Harris. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Overton,
Aye.
Councilmember Purdock,
Aye.
Councilmember Harris, Vice Mayor Sluten,
Aye.
Mayor Kramer.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, we'll now move on to presentations. Our presentation of September's Adorable Dogs time. Chief White, Lieutenant Hawk, do you want to present this? Or do we want?
Charmaine's going to come up with the
Alright.
shrimp.
Oh, small. Lauren.
What do you have for us tonight?
Not a pit bull, also.
It is a dog.
Yes.
Evening. He's a shrimp. He's a Chihuahua mix. About a year old or so, maybe a little younger boy. He's super friendly. Left it in on vaccines. He likes all dogs, big, small, and he doesn't really have any stranger danger like little dogs typically have. Pretty friendly. I put him down, but I think that's something. He loves toys. Little sleepy things.
Like he's a little nervous.
He's scared right now. Well, it's weird when you help, but. And he also, a little bit of medical trivia, he has a condition called cryptorchid. Does anybody know what that is?
What?
Cryptorchid? No? You win a free cat adoption if you know the answer. No?
Google it real fast.
He actually only has one descendant testicle. So it makes his mater a little more, of a bigger surgery and more expensive. Yeah, it's kind of common.
Well, hopefully we'll find him a home.
Sure.
It's very cute.
Any questions? Call the shelter, 273-9440.
No?
Okay.
Doesn't multiply if you throw water on it. Looks a little gremlin.
No,
How cute.
we've thrown water on his hair, trying to make different hair. That's it.
Thank you, Charmaine.
You're welcome.
Good evening, members of the council. So tonight, our stats are going good again. We're up a little from last month. So we've actually been improving the last like 3 months. We've been getting a little bit better. So the stats to date for the year, we've taken 285 dogs into the shelter. 164, about 57% have gone to rescue. 56 or about 20% have been returned to their owners. 40 or 15% have been adopted. 15 total or 5.5% and 5.3% have been euthanized. So overall, our live release rate is 94.7%. So we're still doing good. Like I said, we're up about 1% from last month or 2% from the month before. So we're doing really good in that area right now.
Great work. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
How is the new facilities working out, Lieutenant?
We haven't, the new facilities, they're getting pretty close to being done. We haven't moved in and opened them up for use yet, but we're getting pretty close. There's only a couple minor things that need to be finished up. So hopefully
It looks
in the next
good.
couple of weeks here, we'll be up and running.
Very good. Thank you.
It looks like the grass is, fake grass.
Yes, it is.
You're not using that yet either, no?
And not generally, no. I mean, I think they're using every once in a while.
Probably should be
for
asking
adoptions.
Charmaine that question.
We've had a couple meetings recently.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay, now we'll move on to our next presentation by PG&E on the public safety power shutoff situation.
Yes, so-
And we have,
Yes, we have Melinda Rivera and John Costa on the line. So they have a few slides they're going to walk through, and then we'll address any questions that the council has. So with that, we'll hopefully turn it over to Melinda.
welcome Linda and John.
Good
evening.
City Council members.
Okay, we're ready for you.
All right, I am trying to do a screen share. Is that successful? Can you see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, great. All right. Well, good evening, Clearlake City Council members. My name is Melinda Rivera. I work in local public affairs and local government relations for Lake County and for Sonoma County on behalf of PG&E. I would like to thank you for taking the time to meet with us this evening to discuss our community wildfire safety program. I would like to take this evening to discuss the work that PG&E is doing to reduce the threat of wildfire locally and system-wide as we work to improve the public safety power shutoff program this year. Learning how to advance slides. We know that everyone is currently focused on staying safe from COVID-19, and we really appreciate your participation during this challenging time. We hope the following information is helpful in understanding how PG&E is working to reduce the wildfire risk. PG&E understands that this current environment with COVID-19 requires us to work even harder to prevent catastrophic wildfires and to minimize the disruption to communities and individuals if a public safety power shutoff has to be called. This next slide talks about the progress that we have made with our wildfire safety program, our community wildfire safety program here in Lake County. I'm going to see if I can make it so. So here in Lake County, our target for this year was to have 11 sites that could be utilized as community resource centers in the event of a public safety power shutoff. So far, we have secured agreements for 3 sites to serve as indoor sites and 7 locations to serve as outdoor sites for community resource centers. This year, PG&E has also worked to install 15 sectionalizing devices throughout Lake County in order to divide the grid into smaller sections to minimize the impacts. We have also worked, our goal this year was to complete work on 9 sites for temporary generation at substations and for the construction of temporary microgrids. Thus far, we have 5 of those 9 sites ready, and we'll talk more about that this evening. PG&E has also completed 7 line miles for system hardening, 94 line miles for enhanced vegetation management, and PG&E has also constructed an additional 9 weather stations in Lake County this year. And those weather stations have really been integral and critical for helping PG&E to monitor weather locally, track and determine how best to respond and operate safely. This next slide is an overview of the electric infrastructure in Lake County, the customers, and the critical facilities. There is a map on the left that shows the high fire threat districts in Lake County. This map was developed in conjunction with CAL FIRE. Of the 1,172 distribution line miles in Lake County, over 60% of those are in high fire threat district. For the approximately 200 miles of overhead transmission lines, 88% of those transmission lines are in high fire threat districts. And we operate a total of 9 substations in Lake County, serving 37,500 customers. This includes 2,200 medical baseline customers. Medical baseline customers apply online or call PG&E in order to complete an application to be classified as a medical baseline customer. In Lake County, PG&E has worked with the municipalities and with County Office of Emergency Services to identify 300 critical facilities within the county. This is a zoom in on the city of Clearlake. This shows the high fire threat districts surrounding the city of Clearlake, and it definitely has an impact on the transmission into and out of city of Clearlake and the distribution lines that serve the city of Clearlake. So we just want to make sure everybody, I think everyone in Lake County is keenly aware of this, but we wanted to take the time to acknowledge this, that Lake County has been very fire affected over the years. So last week was the first public safety power shutoff event for this calendar year. So PG&E proactively shut off power for safety last week on Monday evening, September 7th. This was based on forecasts of widespread, severely dry conditions and strong gusty winds with very low humidity that created critical fire weather with very high risk of ignition. So this particular PSPS event last week affected approximately 171,400 customers across 22 counties in Northern California and 7 tribal communities, including unincorporated areas of Lake County. So there were approximately 25 customers who were impacted in Lake County. We opened up 50 community resource centers across across the majority of the counties that were impacted. For any given public safety power shutoff event that occurs, PG&E, as it tracks the weather in advance of the event, reaches out to the local County Office of Emergency Services, and in conjunction with the County Office of Emergency Services, determines if, when, how many and where the community resource centers will be open in any given county. For this particular public safety power shutoff event last week, as a result of the weather modeling and the predictive forecasting, the forecasted weather for the city of Clear Lake did not meet the criteria to be placed in scope for last week's event of September 7th through September 9th. This next slide shows the identified locations for community resource centers in Lake County. 3 of the indoor sites that have been proposed are event ready. One of these sites is the Highlands Senior Community Center in Clear Lake, and that site can also serve as an outdoor site if needed. There is an additional outdoor site that has been located in Clear Lake that is located at the Masonic Hall. There have been additional precautions this year taken at the Community Resource Center sites, made in conjunction with local public officers to ensure that every site complies with the local public health orders in the county that we serve, and to make sure that all precautions are being taken in this era of COVID-19. Again, while these are all sites in which we either have active agreements or are pursuing active agreements, PG&E will announce at the time of the event which of these locations have been opened after conferring with the County Office of Emergency Services or Department of Emergency Management. So this slide is a map, but it's also really based on the public safety power shutoffs of last year. It was an effort by PG&E. We are really looking to try to mitigate the impacts of public safety power shutoffs as much as we can. So we're working to reduce these impacts by installing additional temporary microgrids or utilizing temporary backup generator sources to keep portions of communities energized. While some microgrids can keep whole neighborhoods energized, other microgrids serve very specific community resources such as hospitals, police, or fire stations, or gas stations or supermarkets. So this year, PG&E explored 70 sites across its service territory in California to identify possible locations for microgrids or temporary generation. In Lake County, there were 9 sites identified where we could pursue this opportunity. Please note that the ability to energize the substations or to provide microgrids or temporary generation is always dependent upon the weather locally during any given event, and based on PG&E's ability to safely activate and operate the microgrid or the backup generator in any given set of conditions during a public safety power shutoff event. This next slide is an overview of the 5 substations in Lake County that were identified as locations for temporary generation in the event of a public safety power shutoff. The Clearlake sub and Hartley sub are ready to energize if the weather permits and if it is safe to do so with temporary generation. The Canocti substation, Redbud substation, and Highland substation have also completed all engineering and construction work to be ready for temporary generation. So they do have temporary generation that is stored offsite, but they are event ready in the event that the public safety power shutoff occurs, if the area is in scope and if it is safe to locate temporary generation there. This next slide concerns the construction of microgrids as opportunities in Lake County. There are 4 locations listed on this slide. The Clear Lake South microgrid is currently wrapping up for civil and electrical construction. Clearlake South is primarily focused on the energization of the hospital, the Adventist Hospital there in Clearlake, and also includes the Walmart and other very close by infrastructure. We, unfortunately, due to the LNU lightning complex fires and other fires throughout PG&E's service territory these last few weeks, many of the resources that PG&E had allocated to keeping these projects going forward, those were temporarily pulled away, but we are getting those resources back. And so we do anticipate having Clearlake South completed by September 30th. The Clearlake North microgrid is also ready to proceed with civil and electrical construction. That microgrid would energize the fire station and the police station up on the north side of Clearlake, as well as some additional critical infrastructure located in that area along Olympic Drive. We have two other sites listed. The Middletown site and the Lucerne site are also in staged phases, working towards their completion, although we are unsure whether we will have those microgrids ready in time for our current public safety power shutoff season, our current fire season. So for our public safety power shutoff agency portal, this is a data portal that has been developed following last year's public safety power shutoffs. This is a portal that has been developed with specific information that cities, counties, tribes, and emergency responders can use before, during, and after a public safety power shutoff event. This portal is for elected officials and is also for staff leadership and other people who play a pivotal role in emergency response at the municipal, county, or tribal government level. This portal includes interactive maps, both before an event and during an event. It includes a summary of potentially impacted customers, both prior to the event and then again during the event. It will have the summary of the customers who are actually impacted, critical customers, and it has a list of medical baseline customers who are anticipated to be impacted before an event. And then during the event, the list will be updated to include those customers who are actively impacted. There is also information on the activated and opened community resource centers. Those community resource centers, their locations and hours will also be posted on the public-facing PG&E website so that everyone in the community can see those as well. Oh, and if for any of you who are city council members who do not yet have portal access and would like to have portal access, you can contact me directly or just let City Manager Mr. Flora know, and he can, I'm happy to help anyone. I'm happy to help anyone get that access if needed. We do have other slides in the appendix if there are questions specific to topics that we have not covered yet this evening. If anyone has any questions, we have a phone number where people can call, 1-866-743-6589, or you can email us at wildfiresafety@pgne.com. You can also visit our website, pge.com//wildfiresafety. That concludes my presentation for this evening. Now happy to answer any questions that council might have. John, who provides service to a large region of Northern California for PG&E and works on behalf of local public affairs, is also here to help answer questions.
Vice Mayor Schlitt, you have a question?
Yes, thank you for coming and getting us some additional information. You said there are 1,172 miles of power lines in Lake County?
So we have It's 1,172 of the distribution miles and 200 of the transmission miles. The transmission miles are the higher voltage lines that cross the county.
And did I see it right that you have, you were projected to do 8 miles of hardening?
That is correct. The target was 8 miles of hardening for the year 2020.
So that's going to take about, I don't know, how many years to harden all lines?
I will defer to my colleague, Mr. John Costa, on this one.
Yes, good evening. So we have targeted 8 miles of hardening within the county. And in the appendix, it does show where those miles are targeted. Those are areas in which we needed to address today. We are in the process of looking at other areas in which we might be able to do some hardening work in combination with our veg management work and some of the switching devices that we've installed. So the timing wise, we're not looking for a significant time to get that work done. We're actually looking within the next 2 to 3 years.
Quick follow-up question. How many of those 7 miles that you've done is actually underground?
I don't believe any of those miles have been underground in the county or city, but I will double check.
Isn't that the ultimate solution?
No, we look at, that's one of the solutions. We do look at taking more system hardened poles, so more steel poles, insulating the wires, and then putting in sexualizing devices. So there's a couple different factors that we look at for hardening.
Anyone else down there? I have a couple questions. Melinda, you mentioned on the microgrid north and south, that on the north, let's say first, that your targets were to energize the fire station and the police station. Both of those places have generators. I'm kind of curious why we're not looking at providing power to other places that don't have generators.
So these locations, and John can add to this or correct me if I'm wrong, but these locations were identified in conjunction with county emergency services when looking at where the location of critical facilities were. And there, while certain facilities will have temporary backup generation, areas with critical facilities are still considered very high priority for communities, simply to make sure that if it's safe to operate and if the weather permits, that we can still continue to provide power to those communities where we have high concentrations of critical facilities.
I assume then that all those areas in between the fire station and the police station will also be energized just because of their proximity?
That would be correct. I'm sorry, I don't have a screenshot tonight of microgrid circuits. I will follow up. John, do you think it would be possible for me to see if I can get a PDF or KMZ file to share with council?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll work with your staff to provide you with that information.
All right. And then on the south, you're energizing the hospital and Walmart. So I'm assuming that since you have the Masonic Lodge identified as a CRC, that will also be covered by that microgrid since it's in between.
Right. But again, just to make sure, because I don't, unfortunately, I'm not able to access Google Earth right now to share it with you. I will be following up and getting you some type of either KMZ or PDF file. And I'll be sending that to Mr. Flores so that he can share that with you.
And I see that, I think there's 2 trailers parked at the college and another piece of equipment, which I'm not sure what that is, but is that what you mean by they're ready to, is that part of the microgrid process, or is that part of the Highland substation temporary generation?
My understanding is that those generators currently located at the college are for the microgrid solution.
For just the south?
Yes, just for the south.
Then I think you told me before the north were going to be sited down at your facility on Olympic. Is that correct?
That was my understanding, and I believe that is where they will be sited once the construction is completed. However, I will definitely circle back with Mr. Flora and let him know once we get closer to completed construction.
You have my phone number as well. So.
Yes, and I will be happy to look into that too.
Okay, that's all the questions I have for now. Anyone else? There any, Councilmember Harris?
Nothing, no, I'm saying nothing.
Oh, nothing, okay. City Clerk, Watson, is there anything from the questions from the public?
So it looks like we have a hand raised by Cheryl Allman. You take a public comment on this?
For the PSPS presentation?
I'm not sure. She's raising her hand and asking to speak. You
Okay,
have
well,
public comment on the
Maybe
presentation.
maybe we'll wait until public comment then, I guess. since we
Well,
don't
no,
have-
it
Pardon
is,
me?
it is for the
It's about
PG. It is for the
Okay,
PG.
go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay, we wrote a letter and talked with Kevin Dasso in September of 2018 regarding the tree trimming. We have a lot of gray pines in the franchise area that are near lines and over lines, and we identified a number of those because of the situation within PG&E that kind of got stalled. Who do we need to go back to get that back on track where you're removing our high pitch trees that are in the right of way near your trees, and also to take out all the underlying and eliminate those trees during the tree trimming process. They're a fast growing tree. They need to be trimmed on an ongoing basis, and the city has ask that we work with you and make sure you can take them out once and not have to keep going back.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. My name is John Costa. If you could email me that information, Melinda and I will work on it. My email address is John, JOHN .Costa, COSTA @pge.com.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, if you can CC the city manager as well.
Yes, and I've been working with the chief of police, so we've been doing this
Okay.
as a team with the city. It is not me independently.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Yes, if you can get that information to us, we'll look into it and follow up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Any more?
No more.
Okay, well, John and Melinda, we appreciate your stopping in and giving us this update and information, and hopefully we'll not have any PSPSs to worry about, but in case we do, good to know that you're getting us prepared. So thank you again.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks
Mayor,
very
if I
much.
could just make a brief comment.
Yes,
Even though we haven't had a PSPS yet, I do want to let the council know and thank Melinda in particular, because the communication so far this year, clearly PG&E did hear the concerns that we talked about so many times. It was much improved over what we experienced last year. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you again, especially Melinda. You and I have talked several times on the phone, and you've always been very gracious and tried to give me the information, even though sometimes that was not possible. Again, thank you.
Well, we will continue to do our best to keep the communication going with the City of Clearlake. And thank you very much, City Council, and thank you, City Manager, for having us this evening.
Good evening. Okay. Now we shall move on to public comment. Public comment will be accepted via email and through the city's town hall portal prior to the start of the meeting. Each public comment email to the city clerk will be read aloud by the city clerk for up to 3 minutes, or will be displayed on screen. Public comment emails and town hall submissions, which are received after the beginning of the meeting, will not be included in the record. Madam Clerk, do you have any public comment?
No, Mr. Mayor, there is no public comment.
Okay,
No one's raised their hand on the Zoom, so.
and nobody zoomed in. Very good. Then we will now move on to the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the council or audience requests otherwise, or if staff has requested a change under adoption of an agenda, in which case item will be removed for separate consideration. Any item so removed will be taken up following the motion to approve the consent agenda. So, is there any, council, is there any items that any of you would like to see moved? Madam Clerk, is there any, thing from the audience?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, seeing none, then I'll bring it back and we'll accept the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, a motion has been made by Councilmember Harris and seconded by Vice Mayor Slogan. Do we have a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Purdock,
Aye.
Councilmember Overton,
Aye.
Councilmember Harris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Slogan,
Aye.
Mayor Kramer.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Now we'll move on. Move on, pardon me? I think we have 8 first. Okay, we'll move on to item 8. First reading of ordinance 247-2020, an amendment to chapter 3 of the Clearlake Municipal Code regarding development impact fees. Mr. Floor?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll give a brief introduction to this and then turn this item over to Mr. Price. So this is something that's been in the council's strategic plan for a number of years, developing this program. And we have been actively working on it for probably at least a year and a half. And Mr. Price has been leading that effort. And so some of the things that we discussed previously are included here. Some of them are yet to complete. We wanted to bring this back and try to get some of it adopted by council at this point and then get some future direction on where to go additionally if necessary. So with that, I want to turn it over to Mr. Price and he can present an overview of the staff report.
Thanks, Alan. Chris?
Evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Can you hear me okay?
A little muffled, maybe you could speak up a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, in the circulation element of our 2040 general plan, which was adopted in 2017, included several programs involving developing the capital improvement program and traffic mitigation fees. And so in collaboration with W-Trans, we developed a program to do just that. So just the background, the city provides facilities for infrastructure, general government, administrative, planning, building, engineering, recreational facilities, stormwater collection, and traffic circulation controls. So when the general plan was adopted, it was envisioned that we would develop a comprehensive capital improvement program that would anticipate the growth from the general plan and develop a complete, what's considered an AB 1600 fee program or development impact fee program that covers all of those components that the city has authority for. Key requirements for the structure and scope of the AB 1600 fee program is the development impact fees and revenue can be collected and used to cover the costs of capital facilities and infrastructure required to serve new development and growth in the city. However, impact fees cannot be used to cover the operation and maintenance costs of other facilities and infrastructure. Impact fees can't be, the revenue cannot be collected, used to cover deficiencies in the city's services and capital equipment. So when we're looking at basically the current level of service and the growth impacts, and so the impact fees cover their fair share of those impacts. So if there's an additional increase in service or needed, then the city has to come up with additional fees over and above AB 1600. An impact fee in terms of the rational nexus has to be based on a connection between new growth and the development and need for new facilities or improvements. And as such, the impact fee has to be supported by specific findings that demonstrate this legal nexus. In addition, the impact fee must be structured in such a way that the revenue generated does not exceed the cost of providing those facilities improvements for the impact. So when we originally took this project up several years back, after the general plan was adopted, we were going to do a comprehensive program to cover all of those components. And given the scenario that we don't really have a full capital improvement program, kind of went beyond the scope of the work that we had to do on this. For example, the 2003 Parks and Recreation Master Plan would need to be updated to identify all the new parks that we identified in our parks or open space element of the general plan. There were some additional areas that we identified in the general plan for parks. So we'd have to develop that master plan further and develop the costs. For example, police department, future administrative facilities, public works facilities, drainage improvements probably should have their own master plans to create a full-scale impact fee program. So we broke the program up into two phases. The first phase being the roads circulation, because we have plenty of information and the need for that. We also have a need for administering the program, which is about 5%, and a need for updating the general plan in 2040. So we anticipated that growth component as well. Those are things that we can put numbers on, hard numbers. So we created a structure for putting in the other phases for like parks and recreation, police, public works, administration, so they'll fit right into this program as we need to do that. So phase one consists of the transportation development impact fees, and W-Trans is the one that helped us produce the costs and numbers. I'm going to have Cameron Nye, who's from W-Trans, kind of explain how we develop the different projects that we have and how we develop the fees. Cameron?
Thank you, Gary. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Good evening, council members. My name is Cameron Nye. I am an associate engineer with W-Trans. I've done quite a bit of work for the city over the years, and I'm very happy to be here with you this evening, even if it is only virtually. So I'm going to walk you through our process tonight as part of preparing the transportation impact fee study for the program and present to you the findings of our analysis, and I'll be around to answer any questions that you may have. So the traffic analysis that was prepared for the general plan update identified the need for 6 projects within the city of Clearlake to support build out of the general plan. Project A is the extension of Airport Road. This project would extend Airport Road from Old Highway 53 to State Route 53, approximately 1,500 linear feet of new roadway. Project B is various vehicular capacity improvements to the intersection of State Route 53 and 18th Avenue. Third project, Project C, is installation of a new multi-lane roundabout at the intersection of Dam Road and Dam Road Extension. Project D is various sidewalk closures along Lakeshore Drive. Project E is similarly the addition of new sidewalk on the recently constructed segment of Dam Road Extension. And Project F is a new single lane roundabout at the intersection of Olympic Drive and Lakeshore Drive. So the bulk of our work here was developing planning level construction costs for these 6 projects. The Airport Road Extension project, the cost for that was estimated based on the recently completed Dam Road Extension project, being that they were similar in length. And we had accurate recent data from that bidding. The second project, the capacity improvements at State Route 53 and 18th Avenue, were estimated based on our work and our involvement with other similar improvements within the Bay Area. And the same goes for the sidewalk improvements on Lakeshore Drive and Dam Road Extension. The roundabout at Dam Road Extension cost was estimated based on the construction costs that Omni Means prepared in 2017 as part of that feasibility study that they prepared. And then we escalated that cost to today's dollars. And the roundabout at Olympic Drive and Lakeshore Drive was estimated based on a national data source for roundabout called A Synthesis of Highway Practice, published by the National Cooperative Highway Research Program. So to summarize the cost of these 6 projects, Airport Road Extension is expected to have a cost of about 1.5 million. The capacity improvements at State Route 53 and 18th Avenue have an estimated cost of 275,000. The roundabout at Dam Road and Dam Road Extension has a cost of about 4.8 million. So by far the largest of these projects. The sidewalk improvements on Lakeshore Drive have a cost of about 1.4 million, and Dam Road Extension sidewalk improvements have a cost of about 413,000 estimated. And then finally the roundabout at Olympic Drive and Lakeshore Drive has a cost of about 1.4 million, resulting in a total cost for all 6 of the projects at $9.9 million. Now, there are various funding sources to accumulate that, so not all of it would need to be collected by the impact fee program. And some of those other funding sources would be the developers themselves, as well as grants. And grants are anticipated to be a relatively large source of funding for the roundabout at Dam Road and Dam Road Extension. Probably be looking at funding about half of that with grants. So all in, the impact fee program results in a need of about $5.6 million. So the trip generation during the critical weekday PM peak hour was estimated for the general plan build out scenario. And based on almost 2,000 new single family dwelling units, 487 multifamily dwelling units, 320,000 square feet of commercial space, and 360,000 square feet of industrial space, is going to be about 3,148 new trips during the weekday PM peak hour. So dividing that by the total amount of funding expected to be needed by the impact fee program, we are able to develop some impact fees for the various land use categories. And those resulting fees are $2,049 per residential dwelling unit, which includes single family as well as multifamily, and a fee of $2,071 per 1,000 square feet for commercial uses, and $783 per 1,000 square feet for industrial uses. We compared those numbers to other impact fees that we've been involved in the Bay Area. And we're able to determine that the fee numbers proposed are actually quite a bit lower than what you would expect based on the averages of the other jurisdictions locally. We looked at Cloverdale, Cotati, Calistoga, Healdsburg, Novato, Petaluma, Rohnert Park, Santa Rosa, Sebastopol, the county of Sonoma, and the town of Windsor. The average for those jurisdictions per residential dwelling unit is $6,500 compared to the $2,049 proposed for the city of Clearlake. The average commercial fee is $6,357 compared to $2,071 for the city of Clearlake, and the average industrial fee is $2,541 compared to $783 for the city of Clearlake. So, as proposed, the fee numbers are lower than surrounding jurisdictions, and they would be considered reasonable. And with that, I will turn it back over to Gary.
Yes, then just something to mention, when we did the general plan 2017, we had an economist, economic development systems, prepare the growth projections, both for population, housing, industrial, non-residential development, to come up with those numbers. And then I actually kind of looked at that with the recent fires we had to bring those numbers down a little bit and start from basically this year to start the projections. So the basis for which we're hanging our hat on is based on the city's economist, a professional economist. So relative to the way we formatted this did undergo legal review. I worked quite a bit with Scott Porter, our city attorney, one of our city attorneys, on this. And we structured it so that we have the enabling legislation, which is the ordinance, which becomes part of the municipal code under the revenue, finance, and taxation chapter of the municipal code, to create the broader needs and comprehensive development impact fees. So it covers all of the different components that we have, whether it be parks, city administrative facilities, drainage, police, so that when we go back and do further updates, then by a resolution, we can create those components later. And then so we have the resolution that creates the transportation impact fees and the W-Trans study, which is exhibit to the resolution. So after reviewing this and taking action, we would find that the project is exempt from environmental. You'll have to take that action as part of your approval. And we find that this, in terms of the financial and policy implications, that this is expected to reduce the cost for the city for maintaining existing levels of service in the transportation area. So in terms of the staff's recommendation tonight, we would recommend that conduct the public hearing, consider the public comments, waive the first reading, and adopt ordinance number 247-2020, the amendment to chapter 3 of the municipal code. And then that refers to exhibit A. And then adopt resolution 2020-40, adopting the development impact fee program for transportation. So I'm happy to take any questions that you have at this time. We're both here, and Ellen's been very much a part of this process, and we do definitely appreciate all of your support in developing this program.
Questions? Councilmember Harris? Councilmember Overton? Vice Mayor Flood? We'll have comments later on then. There are no questions from council. Does the public have any?
I don't see any hands raised, and I did not receive any comment on this item. So no?
No comments on this item.
Oh,
All right.
wait.
Good.
We do have a hand raised on the Zoom, so that's Michael McEwen. Go ahead and allow him to talk.
Couldn't hear anything.
Yes, hello, this is Michael McEwen. I'm on Mountain View Street in the city of Clearlake. I thought, if I remember right, that the item F, the roundabout at Olympic and Lakeshore, that was going to be funded or partially funded by the resort going in over there.
You want to take that one, city manager?
Well, that was part of the proposed purchase agreement that we had with them. At this time, that deal is no longer active, so it remains to be seen whether that would be funded. But and I don't know if Cameron or Gary want to jump in, but that was part of the point that Cameron was making earlier in trying to estimate some share of what may be funded by developers, what may be funded by grants, and what may be funded by development impact fees was included in the study. But of course, you know, the reality of that may be a little bit different by the time these projects get built.
And the program, this is Gary, the program is designed so that if a developer does contribute towards the improvements, that they are reimbursed with the development impact fees for those beyond their share of the impact. So we did cover that in the event that we do get additional contributions from the developer to do the improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Price. City manager. Any other?
It doesn't look like there's any more hand raised, so no more comments, Mr. Mayor.
I shall bring it back then to council. And you have a Vice Mayor Clinton, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I think this was one of my pet peeves when I first joined the planning commission. Have some kind of development fees, impact fees established. So I'm glad to see this finally move forward to this. I think the fee is reasonable, and that if you look at it from a developer point of view, once the fee is set, they can just calculate it into their pro forma and deal with the cost, overall cost. So I think the fee is reasonable. It's time that we have some kind of impact fees established by ordinance. That's it. Thank you.
Any comments?
Only that I concur with the comments of the vice mayor. This has been a long time in coming, and I'm glad to see it finally moving forward.
Thank you, Councilmember Burdock. Councilmember Overton.
Well, I think Gary knows how I feel. We've been trying to get this done for a long time, so I really appreciate your hard work on this, and I am so happy that it is. I agree with our vice mayor. It was definitely time to come. I know we've talked about it for many years, and so it's finally done. And I know you guys worked hard on it, and I thank both of you guys for your presentation. Was very clear. I appreciate that. I had some questions, but you answered them as we went along. So thank you for that. And you guys did a great job. I appreciate it.
I would concur with our vice mayor and our council members' comments. I think it is a long-term coming. You crafted, I think, a pretty good ordinance. One question, this is tied to what the 7, I guess, projects. If other projects come up, is this the ordinance set so that they can be added in as just as the same as if some of the impact fee is paid for by a developer that we didn't anticipate? Is there a mechanism to add to those basic programs that you base these fees on? Do you get what I'm asking? Maybe I'm not clear on that.
I'm sorry, trying to understand the question, but I think the resolution and the ordinance have built-in mechanisms for the fair share proportions, or if there's additional funding provided.
Future projects that weren't anticipated here.
So that's a good question, and when that occurs, we do annual reviews. And of course, the next step after this, should have mentioned, is the fee schedule needs to probably change to reflect the numbers in here. But every year under AB 1600, council needs to review all the fees. And if there's amendments that need to be made, then that's the time to make them. Of course, they can make them anytime during the year. And so hopefully, if we do see a need to add some additional transportation projects, we would, of course, have to amend. We'd have to go back and do a nexus assessment, kind of like what Cameron did, and then do the same process. So
Yeah,
basically,
The mechanism is there. That's pretty much what I was wondering.
yeah, so I'll just jump in and say that we would need to go back and revisit this process, but the fees would be able to be adjusted annually for inflation without needing to go back in and redo any of the analysis.
Inflation or addition or subtraction of projects, either way. Okay, well, that answers my questions. Again, you guys did a great job on this, Mr. Price, Mr. Nye. I think we're ready
Thank you, Mr.
to. What?
You said thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Pardon me?
Gary said thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you're welcome, Gary.
Thank you as well. Glad to be here and glad to be a part of the program.
Okay, thanks for
Cameron's
taking
been
time to Did you have something, Mr. City Manager?
Well, no, I didn't say anything, but I do, whether it's now or after the vote, I would like to have some direction from the council. So there was discussion about this for a number of years. Before we really started working on this project, I would say a year and a half or 2 years ago, we asked the council for direction on what do you want to have impact fees for. You told us transportation, let's look at parks, let's look at storm drainage, and we're also going to look at some of our sort of general infrastructure here. What you have before you is just the transportation piece, and it's taken a lot of work to get to this point. But I think it's a good time to look at the numbers and, kind of give us some general direction. Do you want to move forward with the other phases of it, or do you want to let this work for now, just the transportation piece? So I would like to have some direction on that.
Start with Councilmember Furman.
Well, thank you for asking that question, or making those comments. I would like to actually see us moving forward. I mean, this has been a stepping stone with trying to get our general plan updated so then we can move into this process. And I do recommend we continue to move forward with the additional projects. Especially parks.
I wasn't trying to put words in your mouth, Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, I would say I totally agree. I know that there's obviously some energy and some cost involved in making these things happen, but ultimately it's something that we've needed for a long time, and I think it's going to serve our city well when we get all of these pieces and parts in place. And yeah, I would target all of the things you listed. That's obviously key components, but yeah, I think the parks are a big deal.
Councilmember Overton, do you have
I totally agree. I mean, this is something that I wanted for 10 years. So I think, I know that's not something we're going to jump into, but yes, I think we need to figure out a way to move forward and figure out what to do with the rest of this and step into another phase.
Ms. Mayor Sloan?
I concur with all.
I make it unanimous.
Okay, that's pretty clear direction. Thank you.
We can come up.
Okay, so I guess we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to present a motion for ordinance number 247-2020, waive the first reading and read by title only, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Clearlake, adding Article 3-8 to Chapter 3 of the Municipal Code to authorize the collection of development impact fees and making findings of exemptions from the California Environmental Quality Act.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Overton and a second by Councilmember Purdock. We have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Overton,
Aye.
Councilmember Purdock,
Aye.
Councilmember Harris, Vice Mayor Sluten,
Aye.
Mayor Kramer.
Aye. Motion passes. Let's see, now,
To present the second resolution 2020-40, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Clearlake approving development impact fees for future development.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Overton and a second by Councilmember Purdock. You have a roll call.
Councilmember Overton,
Aye.
Councilmember Purdock,
Aye.
Councilmember Harris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sluten,
Aye.
Mayor Kramer.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, now move on to,
Thank you, Gary and Cameron.
yes. Good night.
Thank you.
Move on now to item number 9. Consideration of adding a voter receiver site to the police department, resolution number 2020-42. Manager Flora, you're starting this, I guess.
Chief White will present this item.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, and members of the public. We're here before you tonight to talk about adding another voting receiver site. As you may recall, last year, your council approved creating a voting system for our radios to address the issue of officers and workers in the field being able to talk into dispatch. Your council authorized the first phase of it, which was adding a voting receiver site to a water tank, to the hospital, and then to the police department. At that time, based upon the predictive analysis, it was deemed that we would probably need an additional voting site in the Clearlake Park area. Based upon our experience after installing the voting system, we did see improved coverage that closely matched the predictive analysis. So we're here before you tonight to look at adding a site up there. We've been working with Golden State Water Company to find a suitable location. They have a water tank that's located at the end of Sampson Drive. That would increase coverage both in Clearlake Park as well as along Lakeshore Drive towards Gooseneck Point. We are currently in the final stages of developing an MOU with them for co-locating the site. We've presented our plans and just waiting to get it finalized. We worked with Precision Wireless. They maintain our current radio system and develop the voting system that we have in place. They've provided a quote in the amount of $20,460.36 to add this additional voting site. We're familiar with our system. Therefore, staff is recommending that you wait for competitive bidding, authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Precision Wireless, along with the 10% contingency for an amount not to exceed $22,506. And this will be funded with existing appropriations that were completed on September 3rd. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I support it. It's needed.
Councilmember Harris,
Nothing for you.
Councilmember Overton.
I just had a question because I heard, and it just, how rumors are, that you were still having problems over on the side, like over by where, behind the food places over there on going down towards Dam Road. Are you having problems out there still?
Correct. So the area where you kind of dip down behind Walmart and all that going to the south, we are looking at another voting site down there, but we're not at the phase of engineering it to come up with a solution. We need to find a site and then go ahead and get it engineered for that. So,
Because I know that's kind of where a lot of the problem is, and I'm thinking we don't have radio service at the most problematic place on that side. So, okay, I just wanted to think. I'm all for definitely upgrading to where you guys have radio service everywhere in our city.
Vice Mayor Slade. Okay, just a question, the one that you were going to put on will take care of clear out to the city limits out in State Oak. That some of that in.
correct. We don't have the exact coverage areas that it'll do, but it definitely will kind of that whole area within there. Unfortunately, there's, it's only as it predicts it, right? But there's things that can happen in between. But the idea would be is that we cover kind of that whole northern area of the city where currently we have problems. Right now, our primary talk-in issue is actually in Clearlake Park towards the north end of it, kind of in the basin, because the closest receiver is here at the city hall. And obviously the topography kind of goes up and then it drops down.
Is that why you wanted to replace the poles behind City Hall?
This primarily is to replace it because it's splitting in half. But yes, to go higher, it would receive better. That would probably pick up more of the areas. We still have some kind of going out east of here and to the north, so that would help pick that up.
All right, any more questions from council?
No.
Open it to the public. Any questions or comments?
No comment from the public.
Okay, no Zoom.
No Zoom attendees have their hands raised.
I'll bring it back to council then.
I don't know the comments, but I comment the resolution. Adopt a resolution in consideration of adding a voting receiver site for the police department, resolution 2020-42.
Motion has been made by Vice Mayor Slotin and seconded by Councilmember Harris. Have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Furlong,
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Overton.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Slutin,
Aye.
Mayor Kramer.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, we now move on to item number 11.
Apparently I stepped down too soon.
You're going to stay up here?
Yes.
Which is consideration of adoption of third amendment to fiscal year 2020-21 budget, resolution number 2020-27, appropriating funding for professional services, equipment, and supplies, resolution number 2020-43. With this, I will be talking to interim finance director Blank.
Yes, I put on my other hat. So in short here, there's two different parts of this. One is to appropriate the $6,900 to cover the additional expenses in procuring the Bobcat Toolcat tractor, as well as the concrete Jersey barrier. The second part is to appropriate $455,000 of revenue from the sulfur fire litigation settlement for engineering services for the sulfur fire road rehabilitation project. The revenue that's received in the general fund will be transferred out to capital projects. So this is just allocating the money. Your next item up would be considered an actual contract to utilize that money. Happy to answer any questions.
No questions.
Questions from Councilmember Harris? Any questions? No. Councilmember Overton, any questions?
No.
Vice Mayor Slotin?
None.
Open it to the public. No questions from the public. I'll bring it back to council for action.
Mayor, I'd like to present resolution number 2020-43, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Clearlake adopting the third amendment to the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget, resolution number 2020-27, appropriating funds for the professional services, equipment, and supplies.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made by Councilmember Overton and seconded by Vice Mayor Slotin. Have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Overton.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlong,
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Slutin,
Aye.
Mayor Kramer.
Aye. Motion passes. Now we shall move back to item number 10. Award contract for professional engineering services for the Sulphur Fire Road Rehabilitation Project. I guess that Mr. Goodman, the Director of Public Works, will be presenting this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Just very briefly, in the realm of public works projects, timing is really everything. And if you want to maximize the impact of the dollars that we have. And so in the interest of getting moving on this project, the Sulphur Fire Road Rehab Project, we utilized the services of our contract city engineer to be able to get going with the survey and other aspects of the project as quickly as we could once we knew that we had money coming from PG&E. At this time, however, we have taken the step to move money from PG&E funds into a project account so that we can start paying for those services out of that project account. As I said, time was really of the essence in getting this project going if we wanted to see the project delivered during the during this fiscal year, which we think we probably will get it done during the fiscal year or shortly after the end of the current fiscal year. And so we requested a proposal from the city engineer for the total amount of engineering services that would be required to see this project through from beginning clear to the end of construction. The proposal that we have given to the council to consider is just for about 70% of that work. At this time, we are asking, we've moved funds, or you've authorized the movement of funds to cover about 70% of the total amount of engineering work up through the point that all of the design work is completed. The balance, the other 30%, will be for bidding and for actual construction, inspection work, management work, and the closeout of the project. And anything else that comes up during the balance of the actual construction of the project. So when we look at design work, engineering work on any kind of project, it's kind of a rule of thumb that the engineering costs are going to be about 10 to 15% of the cost of construction. So if you have $10 million, you're going to spend $10 million on construction. You can plan on about $1 million to $1.5 million for engineering services. So keep that number in mind, and then if you cut that down to we're only looking at, say, 7 to 10% of cost, because we're only looking at 70% of the project. Does that make sense? We're looking at 70% of the engineering costs at this time. So that's the figure that we presented to you. That $447,256 is the amount that was bid. We asked to move $455,000 into the project account for engineering services. That will get us through to the end of the design phase. Any questions about that? Anything I've said so far?
I'll have some questions later on.
Okay. So the balance we will come back to. We didn't want to move even all of the engineering funds, let alone all the construction funds at this time. We will move those funds at later dates as we go through the balance of the project. If you think about that number, then that $455,000 we've asked you to move, that's well below 70% of $10 million, which would be $700,000. And so we know we're getting a really good price here from the engineer, from CDC, our city engineer and his company.
But just to clarify one thing, the 455, you say is 70% of what you expect the total of the engineering to be, i.e. the engineering.
That is correct.
I think
Can you just scoot up?
testing once the construction is underway, road-based testing and construction administration and all those. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's the other 30% that isn't included. As I said, we didn't want to move all the money at one time. We didn't feel like we needed to, because construction won't actually begin until sometime after the first year. So we just wanted to make sure we had funds available at this time to get us through the design by, hopefully by the middle of January. And that's when we're hoping to be able to go out to bid. And the reason we feel that we need to go out to bid then, and we're really pushing this, is because that's when we get the best bids. That's when contractors are generally trying to come up with work for their new work season, which is spring, summer, and fall. And so they sharpen their pencils, and they really look how they can give the very best bid possible. And so you get a lot more competitive bids if you bid anywhere from mid-December through maybe middle of February. That's the prime time to be bidding. And so that's why we felt that we just had to push forward with this as quickly as possible. if we had gone the traditional route of preparing an RFP and going out to bid, and we would have, we probably wouldn't be able to deliver this project until sometime in the summer of 2022. And so we didn't want to do that, and we knew that we didn't have to do that because we don't, within the code, we are allowed to do things what we've done. We asked for a proposal from our engineer, and we received that proposal, and that's what we're presenting to you. At this time, what we're asking you to do as council is to approve the action, award the contract to California Engineering Company for engineering services on sulfur fire road rehab, and authorize the city manager to execute that contract. If you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them at this time. And the city engineer is also here if you feel like you have a question for him.
Is there a specific scope? In other words, which streets are all going to be worked on, whether it's just a simple overlay or grading, or what's the total amount of streets that we're talking about?
We're looking at about approximately 10 miles of roads. Is that not correct?
Well, it's about 7.8.
Well, okay.
You rounded it, so.
That's a long ways to round. 7.8 miles of road.
If I could interrupt, I thought that was before we added some additional streets.
The side streets.
But here,
5.2 miles.
Well, I understand this to be, we have to kind of go into what you're just saying. It does include guardrail, stormwater improvements.
That is correct.
It's overlay.
Yeah. So 7.8 miles of roads and with guardrail and where there's been landslides, there will be banks, there will be stabilization efforts made. All those things will be done. And of course, we will end up with a pretty good road surface, good solid road surface when we're done as well.
Councilmember Harris.
So in reading this, it looks like we're talking about an area that's obviously fairly substantial. We're talking about Arrowhead, Gooseneck, and Lakeshore from Olympic to Oak. That's essentially from right here all the way up. And as you had stated, the typical expectation would be in the 10% realm of the entire project scope, and we're looking at about a $10 million project, and we're at 6.5% on that, assumably, for the 100% in. And then the one thing that I would hope, and I would assume that this would be the case, because we're going to get, obviously, not only by waiting to procure our RFP during a time where it's usually more beneficial for us, but also the entire scope of the project would all be included in one mass proposal from the different companies who bid. I assume it's not going to be broken up into pieces, because I'm assuming that we'd get a much better rate that way as well, which I'm sure you're quite planning for. Yeah, I think that this is incredibly affordable, and I think that given the situation, we want to make sure that the citizens of our community are taken care of as quickly as we can, and we're obviously planning in such a way that provides a lot of savings to the community while accomplishing quite a bit as well.
We're in the questions.
Right.
Any other questions? Or
One
question?
well,
It's a question.
Is there been a consideration, because we're talking about the scope of work, right? To get PG&E to do some undergrounding with Rule 20 rule? Why not?
that would push the project back probably at least 2 years.
Well, not necessarily, I disagree with that.
No, I mean, we've met with them here at this table, and
Yeah, I don't disagree. Once you talk to PG&E, they will tell you that. But they're private consultants that do PG&E design. Can we make an effort to get that scope included, please?
we'll look at it again, but I wouldn't hold out any hope for this.
Well, I've done it personally when I had my engineering company, that we had private consultants prepare PG&E plans, and I asked PG&E to approve them and put in a timely fashion. So I would hope we would consider that at least.
We can ask a question?
No, I don't have a question.
No, I said you can ask the question anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we can ask the question again. I'm telling you, I would expect that the environment is much different than it was when you were doing those projects because they won't let us hire private consultants to do this. We did ask them about that. And they said to plan on at least 2 years from project inception to being ready to move forward.
The last project that I know was done in Lake County was in the Oaks, and they did their reconstruction of the Oaks. That was done by, design was done by a private consultant.
Okay, well, that project will also started design when I was working with the county 10 years ago, so.
Okay, I think I'll be taking that as part of it. Councilmember Overton, do you have anything?
I just want to make sure I'm reading this right. So the total amount is 109,631. We're just allocating the 447,000. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, it says 447 on the contract and you're asking 455.
455, just slightly above what his quote was for. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to add that I apologize, Vice Mayor Slogan, to ask about the map. I do have a map. I tried to share it on the screen. For some reason, it's not working, but I can send that to the council so you just have the project map for your reference. And if you have questions from any of your constituents in the area.
Yeah, I think that would be nice if I were able to post this on our website.
I don't see any reason why not.
That'd be a lot easier.
We had that map distributed here.
We did it at the last meeting. I have a copy.
It's been updated since then.
Okay, good.
Okay, no more questions from council?
No.
Open it up to the public.
No comments from the public.
None whatsoever. Any?
No hands raised on the Zoom.
No Zoom. Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back to council for comments and action. Mr. Harris, do you want to finish comments or you?
I threw quite a few in there already.
Okay.
I just want to, no, I appreciate that and I appreciate you moving forward. We're coming up on the 3rd year of the anniversary of the sulfur fire and the roads are terrible. We've got to get this done.
Councilmember Overton, any
I'm
comments?
ready. I'm definitely ready to move forward with this. You know, got the funding to get that. But at least I like that you're going out. Thank you very much for going out in the early part of the year. I appreciate that.
Mr. Slogan?
I concur with Councilman's observation.
Okay, and I concur with all of the things that Councilmember Harris said during the question period. I think this is an excellent time to get engineering done so that we can take advantage of the early bidding process that you spoke of. And I think it also would hopefully give us a little bit of a break on the cost of the materials, from what I understand as well. So I think you've done a great job with this, presenting it to the engineer. Court, you've done good work all through this as well. I appreciate that. And I'm ready to take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to award the contract to California Engineering Company, CEC, for engineering services on the Sulphur Fire Road Rehabilitation Project.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made by Councilmember Harris and seconded by Vice Mayor Slogan. And the roll call, please.
Councilmember Overton.
Aye.
Councilmember Purdock.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Slutin.
Aye.
Mayor Kramer.
Aye. Motion passes. Get to work there. All right, moving right along. To item number, we're jumping back to item number 12. First reading of ordinance number 246-2020, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Clearlake amending section 5-20.3 and section 18-12.050 of the Clearlake Municipal Code relating to commercial cannabis businesses. Mr. Flores.
Yeah, so this is the 3rd meeting in a row that we've talked about cannabis permits, and based on direction from the last meeting, staff has worked with the city attorney to draft language based on council direction. So there's two sections of the ordinance, the municipal code that would need to be updated. The first one is chapter 5, which regulates dispensaries. And so based on that council direction before, this eliminates the cap or the limit of 2 delivery-only dispensaries, but leave the limit of 3 retail dispensaries intact. And then chapter 18, the zoning ordinance, is what regulates the other commercial cannabis businesses, and the changes that you have before you would eliminate the cap on permits for those businesses. And so if the council chooses to move forward with the first reading of this ordinance, there would be no number limit for delivery-only dispensaries and other commercial businesses, with the exception of retail dispensaries. And those potential new businesses would be limited by what's existing in the municipal code and the combined district map, which regulates which areas of the city those businesses can locate. So with that, I'll just try to address any questions.
Okay. Questions? Councilmember Purdon?
Nope.
Councilmember Harris?
No.
Councilmember Overton? Vice Mayor Slotin?
None.
Okay. Go to public comment.
We did receive one public comment via email, and at this time, I don't see any Zoom attendees' hands raised, so I'll go ahead and read this into the record.
Thank you.
The email comes from John Mingori, who states, first, do we want Clear Lake to be the cannabis capital of the county? Is that what we see for our community? Second, not allowing people to face you in person to discuss this issue is criminal. Third, I'd like to know the reason why. Is this for tax revenue? I realize our city, like many, needs money, but there has to be a better way. I like the ordinance for impact fees, but I don't see the cannabis issue as going to bring in the kind of investment we need in our community. The black market is here and growing. Until the state corrects the statewide cannabis issues, we should stay out of it. Fourth, why are you not reading this ordinance? Fifth, why does the staff continue to bring this issue up? How many of the staff live in Clear Lake? Not meaning to say that I care where they live, but if they don't live here, they don't have the vested interest as those who do. And still no hands raised, so no more public comment.
Okay, we'll bring it back to council for statements or action. Councilmember Purdon?
I disagree with removing the cap. I made a motion, or made an offer at our last meeting to increase it by 6 licenses, but there was a reason when we met and set this up as kind of a safety net to have a cap on it. I recognize that zoning and having to come before the planning commission, et cetera, was is somewhat of a control, but anyway, those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Overton?
Yes, well, I mean, I started out with the cap, but I think because of the ordinance and the zoning area where it's at, we're not gonna have big growth here because there's not enough space in Clear Lake to have this big, huge growth that everybody's all worried about. I just think it's funny, I'm the one that was totally against all this to start with. You know, I don't think that this is gonna be a huge thing. We're not a big town. We don't have a lot of space for them to already go. So I think the planning commission, everything goes before them. And I just don't see the purpose to limit them, so I am definitely for the ordinance.
Vice Mayor Slotin?
I have no
I was here, as were a number of you, when before I was even on planning commission, on the ad hoc committee. Member Purdon and I probably had very similar thoughts. I didn't want to see any cannabis here, but if it passed, we started with the 12. Quite honestly, what I've seen the process over the last 3 years has worked, the last 2 years has worked. And we in fact do have very limited zoning that allows commercial cannabis. And I believe that that is a very effective way to keep the cannabis growth in control. And hopefully it'll continue to grow in a positive direction, as our police chief has indicated that we've not had any problems. They've been folks that are working in the cannabis, both the ones that are in operation and those that are in the process of have stayed within the law and are being good citizens. The one that is in operation is providing, I understand, around 50 full-time jobs at salaries that are 2.5 times what the median income is for residents of Clearlake. So I think it's moving forward in a controlled way. The state of California has legalized marijuana, and this is I think a very effective way that we're working with it. I am definitely in favor of this ordinance. With that long-winded comments, I will take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that hold the first reading, read by title only, waive further reading, and set second reading and adoption for October 1st meeting. An ordinance amending sections 5-20.3 of chapter 5, section 18-12.050 of chapter 18 of the Clearlake Municipal Code relating to commercial cannabis businesses.
Motion has been made by Councilmember Harris, seconded by Vice Mayor Sloat. Have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Purdock,
No.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Overton,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Slutin,
Aye.
Mayor Kramer.
Aye. Motion passes with a 4-1 vote. Okay, moving on to item number 13. Discussion of the 2020 League of California Cities LOCC Annual Conference Resolutions. Swanson, you're presenting this?
Honorable Mayor and council members, as you know, at the annual League of California Cities Conference, there is a business meeting where resolutions brought forward by different committees are considered for league policy. And this year's General Assembly and business meeting will be held during the virtual conference on Friday, October 9th. The council appointed Councilmember Overton as the delegate and Mayor Kramer and Vice Mayor Slutin as alternates. This year, there's only one resolution for consideration before the members. And this resolution asks for support of the amendment of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996 to require social media companies to remove materials which promote criminal activities. While you can discuss and give consensus direction to the delegates for voting at the league conference, the support or non-support, I suppose, of the league resolutions does not commit cities to adopting or implementing any league position within our local communities. So what we're asking tonight is for the council to discuss and provide consensus direction to Councilmember Overton on supporting or not supporting this resolution brought forward by the league committee.
Okay, Councilmember Purdock, you have questions? Councilmember Harris?
I just want to be clear on exactly what it's asking. It's asking us to support the concept of essentially censoring social media to not promote. I'm not sure exactly where it's going.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so what they're saying is, what happens is people put on, and I'm sure you've seen them here and there, where they are actually publicly on Facebook or something saying, we're going to go and we're going to burn down, let's say, City Hall. what this resolution would be that that would be taken down so that they cannot basically make the conflict for a violent against a community. So and it's just become very, social media has been the way that these people have started creating their groups to do destruction. And so what this resolution is, the League of Cities is saying that they want that kind of information as far as when people are planning to do criminal activity to be taken off the website. Not necessarily saying it's against your right, but that they don't want them planning criminal activities on the sites.
Right.
Okay. I have a question, maybe Chief White can address this. How would we enforce this? Are we going to enforce this? Or how is somebody going to tell us that this is happening? Is that by observation or, I'm just wondering how it works.
So in a case like, if I understand it, I don't know the exact contents of the resolution, but the act that they're talking about, it imposes a responsibility onto the social media operator. So typically they have ways that you can flag posts, and they presumably review it and so forth.
But there's no action of
There's no local impact. It would be on the social media companies.
No, let's say we've seen something, we could report it to say Facebook or something, and then they would review it and take it down if they thought it was inappropriate. I'm sure some of us have already been blocked from Facebook for our work if that comes up, because they have these little tag words that they look for. And so some people get blocked and it's really nothing, but they get blocked for a few days, they get shut down so that they can research to see what they're doing is appropriate or not.
I think the last part of the resolution goes into the rest of Congress. Again, the Communication Decency Act of 1996. There's 3 steps there.
Well, it seems reasonable to me. Social media already participates heavily in monitoring and modifying what people are allowed to talk about, or in my opinion, encroach on free speech. I would say a step further would be to hold them accountable for inciting a riot or violence. So I'm a supporter of the concept that I'd like to see social media platforms be held responsible for participating, because I feel like that they're not necessarily supportive of downplaying such events. They're more stimulating.
I think, again, steps 1, 2, and 3 probably address some more of your talking about.
So I guess for support.
Look on page 108. 21. Okay, are there any other questions from council? Any public comments? I'll open up.
No one on the Zoom has their hand raised, and I haven't received any emails or public comments. Check them off. No, there's no public comment on the site.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, we'll bring it back to council for discussion and action.
Just one thing to make mention of here is that Chief White, one of the things that you were asked, it actually notes number 2 on page 108. Online platforms must provide to law enforcement, or assume that would be local law enforcement, in a particular case where the person that's posting is in your jurisdiction, information which will assist in the identification and apprehension of a person who is used of the platform to solicit or engage in criminal activity.
That's if the resolution passes.
That's if the resolution passes. Yes, that's where the tie-in would be for local law enforcement, assumably.
You ready to go rip out the? Okay, any other comments?
I just need direction on which one of you guys on the.
I like the ordinance. I support your supporting it.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
There's a just
No motion?
this consensus.
Just direction, okay. Then I think we all direct you to support the resolution. Alrighty. Be no more business. So we will now move on to city manager and council member reports. City manager Flora.
Yes, just a few items. So last week, Tribal Health held their groundbreaking ceremony for their new 25,000 square foot medical and dental clinic on Olympic Drive. And then immediately, well, the following day, they started construction, which I'm sure all of you have noticed. Additionally, they formally provided the city the $25,000 contribution towards the bandstand in Austin Park. So thanks to Tribal Health for being a great community partner. I'm excited about seeing that project develop. It is about an 18-month construction timeline. Wanted to give the council an update. This is something that we haven't really talked with the council about, but has been a fair amount of effort put into over the last, I don't know, year or so, related to the NFIP program. So that's the National Flood Insurance Program, administered by FEMA. So the short story on this is that there was some number of elevation certificates, I guess primarily, that were not really reviewed by previous city staff, and there was some construction that happened that was not consistent with the program. And so the city has been working with them on a corrective action plan. There's a few steps that we're going to have to go through. There's going to be probably some modifications to the FEMA ordinance that we need to bring forward, hopefully sometime before the end of the year. It looks like we have about 10 properties that do not meet the standards. And so important that the council members know about this. I mean, it's an important issue because if we were not to correct these problems, we could be dropped from the flood insurance program, which is not good for anyone. But city staff, so just to give you back up slightly, our city engineer is primarily responsible for administering this program now, along with our planning staff handles some of the day-to-day stuff. So, but city staff are going to have to go out and inspect these. I believe there are 10 properties that need some type of correction. Based on the information that we have, we'll verify the issues that are there and then develop some type of cost estimate on what it is. It doesn't look like any of the issues are too significant. Maybe there were some flood vents that should have been installed that weren't, and or maybe an HVAC unit that needs to be raised up. So we're working on that. If there's anything else that the council needs to do, we'll bring that back. We've changed our internal process so that the city engineer, who's also a licensed surveyor, actually reviews all of these flood certificates that come into the office, and they aren't just assumed to be correct and passed along. We did get our second quarter sales tax reports in earlier this week. So this is for the period from April through the end of June. And, this is something that we were real interested in seeing based on how COVID impacted our sales tax. Fortunately, the city of Clearlake, our brick and mortar sales were up 10% over the same quarter a year ago. Online transactions up a little over 47%, resulting in an overall 17% increase in sales tax receipts to the city.
Nice.
So, that's all good news. Lake County as a whole, about a 22% increase in receipts. The unincorporated county saw over 36% increase in sales tax over a year ago. City of Lakeport saw a small decline, which is probably largely related to the Kmart closing. But anyway, we'll get some more robust reports on this over the next week or so. Probably usually all the jurisdictions have been anxious to see the numbers, and so they send out some of this preliminary stuff. But the increase in Lake County is actually I believe it was the 5th largest increase in the state over a year ago. So feel pretty fortunate to be in that situation that we are in. The Bay Area, for example, saw overall an 11% decline in sales tax over a year ago. Interestingly enough, several of the more rural counties who have seen increases. Trinity County up almost 40%, and so forth. So anyway, I wanted to give the council some information on that. Of course, we're still cautious in what it's going to look like for the third quarter, which is July through September, and we'll see how that happens. I mean, we do know that a lot of this consumer spending was driven by the stimulus payments that went out, and that hasn't happened for a while. There is some talks at the federal level that haven't made much progress around that. So we have been working on options for an agenda management system for our council meetings. Our clerk staff has been working on that. We had some demos this week. The mayor did attend that. Vice Mayor Slocum wasn't able to attend, but hopefully we'll be bringing some type of demo back to the council and a decision on that maybe at our next council meeting. Another item we'll be bringing back that we've at the next meeting that we've been talking about for a little while, but trying to hammer out some of the details, is what we're currently kind of calling a homestead housing program. So this would be an option to try and encourage new housing development within the city. We've talked a lot about the construction costs and how your typical subdivision development doesn't really pencil out currently. And so this program would use some of our Series B bond funds in order to help essentially provide grants to folks to cover some of the permitting costs, possibly free land and so forth, to hopefully encourage those folks to build new homes. So if they receive any of this assistance from the city, they would be required to build a home within 12 months. So working on the details of that, kind of excited about how that's coming together, and look forward to talking with the council about that at the next meeting. Just a couple of grant updates. So the CDBG application for some senior center improvements at the senior center that we talked about before, the kitchen, was pretty much finished today, I believe, and that will be submitted, I think, tomorrow or perhaps Monday. We also applied for funding, ATP funds. This would cover potentially sidewalks along Dam Road and some other pedestrian improvements in that area, including along South Center Drive. So we'll see how that progresses. Continuing to have discussions with HCD related to the 2017 disaster recovery funds related to infrastructure that will be available to the city. We're still developing the program guidelines on that, but looks like that there should be a decent amount of funding that might be available for some infrastructure upgrades. So that's good news as well. We are working on planning for some Halloween stuff and supporting Councilmember Overton, Supervisor Sabatier on the trunk or treat event this year, because we don't anticipate having the normal city Halloween event here at City Hall. The council's approved several expenditures over the last couple of meetings related to the Gobi Desert area. I gave you an update last time. Most of the K-rail that was purchased was installed this week. May have been finished today. I'm not 100% sure. Public Works is also graded through Oregon Avenue so that the police department has easier access to the area. They've been performing some patrols, making some arrests, issuing citations. There's still a lot of things that need to be addressed out there, but we are told that there's some vehicles that have left as well as some occupants out there that we've been concerned about their illegal activity. So we're just going to continue updating the council and continuing our efforts towards our plan of containment and revitalization of the activity in the area. And then the final thing, police department is been working on a sort of drug abatement project. And so Chief White is going to give you a little update on that.
Thank you. So just briefly, as you're probably aware, we get from time to time complaints about different drug activity going on within the city. One of the things that we are trying to do is to leverage technology as a force multiplier for the officers. We have a very large area to cover with limited resources, but we also realize the very negative impact that a single house can have on an entire neighborhood and largely within the community. Individuals that are there that are selling drugs, distributing, that sort of thing, using can really cause the downfall of a neighborhood. So we've been getting complaints about an address off of Gulf and Palmer. So we set up, you can see behind me, changeable message signs notifying the public that there's drug abatement ahead and police cameras. We also installed a pole cam on a transportable trailer that's solar powered and began watching the residents in the surrounding area. We combined that with patrol officers. We made one arrest for a subject with methamphetamine. There was a second subject in an adjacent house who we also discovered is tied in with some of the activity. They went there on a search and they found some contraband. In talking with the neighbors, it's only been up just a few days. They have all provided positive feedback regarding this. I went out there myself at the start of all this to talk to some of the businesses and was dismayed to find out that this one house has been known for many, many years of being a source of drug activity. We've also been working with code enforcement. So code enforcement went out to the address and we've had contact with the owner of the property who lives out of the area. And so we'll be proceeding forward with that case. So we just bring it before you to let you and the public know that, you know, we hear the concerns and we're trying to find ways to use technology. This is sort of a pilot project. As we understand from some of the neighbors, one of the main culprits in the case has already moved elsewhere. So clearly it seems to be quieting down things in the neighborhood. So we hope to acquire, right now we rented a piece of this equipment. We hope to acquire it using asset forfeiture money, which comes from drug investigations, so that we can be more responsive in the community and try to rid of this behavior.
And just like to add, maybe Chief White, you want to add on to this, but this is also important, not only leveraging technology, but just the ability to book criminals for certain crimes and the ability to prosecute them is more limited than it used to be. And so tactics like this are important in trying to eliminate crimes in areas besides just the typical arrest and booking process.
Yeah, most definitely. We're having to think outside of the typical toolbox of things that we have. But I think it's also an opportunity to kind of rethink how we do business and be more efficient, just like everybody else is having to re-examine how they do things in this current era.
Well done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well done.
And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Rudock.
We had a PEG board meeting and did a budget adjustment. So we are exploring probably the best connectivity between MediaCom and AT&T. We're working with city staff. Pleased to have our city manager there and providing input. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Harris.
A quick feedback on your drug abatement thing. I actually got to bear witness to the effect of it. My wife and I I wanted to show her what was taking place. So we parked and watched. And it was interesting to see a car pull up not aware of what was in front of them, get out of the car, walk. As soon as they saw the camera and the sign, immediately ran back to the car and drove away. So it was a customer averted. So it was interesting watching that take place and to see within 5 minutes, it had an effect. We witnessed an effect. We were just astounded. So incredible force multiplier, as you call it. That's what an interesting and wonderful idea. And then I did request a donation to the city for a new cabana and bench at the skate park, and I was granted that by the Lions Club. So they are providing, I don't know if you've all seen this, but down there's a bench area where children could sit. It's become a little tattered and torn over the years. There's a lot of graffiti and whatnot. So this is going to be a very formidable little seating area. It's going to be nice. And once it is constructed and we take delivery, Supervisor Bruno Sabati and myself are going to do the work to remove and install the new one, but that'll be coming. So, yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Overton?
Yes, I attended the LAFCO Zoom meeting this week. And I'll let our Vice Mayor explain that. Sure. Marketing committee, trunk or treat, as we said, we're going to be, so basically I want to put out, we're collecting candy. We need a lot of it because we're really short on time. I normally start this in May, but since we didn't think we were going to have it. So everybody that can, a bag goes, will help. So please drop off at the Chamber of Commerce, Visitor Center, the Senior Center, or City Hall, and just let them know that it is for the trunk or treat. It takes a lot of candy to do this, so it's a lot of kids that we're trying to serve, and they've all been kind of cooped up. So I'm going to guarantee you we'll probably have twice as many as what we normally have. So I really hope the community will help us be prepared. Of course, we're looking for volunteers too. So please feel free to give me a call and get you on the list. We're looking for the vehicles because without the vehicles, we have no trunk or treat. So, please sign up to be on that. My phone number is 707-350-2898, or you can email me at overton@hotmail.com on that. We had talked about at the marketing committee about doing an art festival next year, with maybe doing some chalk art. So if any artists are interested in that, just kind of let us know if that's something that you think would be a great thing to do. One of the things we have out, does anybody have one of those maps that we got?
Yeah, I brought some.
Good. Okay, so we got these wonderful maps, maps that David Cafferty did for us. He's awesome, and he, really did a hard job. I personally just want to thank him. He did a fabulous job on those. I thought he did a great job. So please look at those, pick them up. Hopefully they'll be out there for all our tourists to get, and they'll direct them to all the activities right here in our own city. We don't have to depend on anybody else anymore, and I'm really happy that our marketing committee got this done. So, and that's my report.
Great job. Vice Mayor Sloan.
I'll just tie in the marketing committee for kudos to David Clappy, awesome job, and it took the way it put together with all that effort. Very good. I did look at the installation of the K-rail. Hopefully that will work. I also went down to just off 18, but where they put the chip seal in. Those people must be cheering us on because it looks like a damn road. So they should be really happy. And the cost, the way I understand it, is very affordable. So I wonder if this lasts in 5 to 10 years. The next application probably will take it even longer. So I think it's a great solution for some of those roads. LAFCO, in the LAFCO meeting, we talked about the Lakeport South annexation. That's obviously going to be interesting developments there. We did a service review for Concord Water District, and in general, they are complying with most of the fire flow, but there's some locations where the fire flow is not adequate, but they're probably not as bad as the two other districts.
And as you know, fire flow is a threat to development. If it's not available, then you don't get much development or reinvestment in the community. They have at least, NOCTA has the ability to receive and apply for grants, so they've been working diligently to work on that. So they're putting some new inflow, and they have some other plans.
Question. You just were looking at Canopy because they're a special district and not the other communities.
Right, we cannot do it, the MSR plan. But I think I attended a Zoom meeting of the Canopy Water District, and I think they have our attention that we want to make sure that fire locations and fire flow is being addressed. Hopefully the other districts in this town will follow their lead in that. We also, we started to work on a municipal survey review of the cemetery districts in the county. As some of us know, that the Lower Lake Cemetery District is, they have funding issues that seem to be very hard to resolve. Books that not even computerized, so.
They can't spend the principal and the interest, and there isn't.
So that's another area that we'll be looking at. I think that's my report. I might have a do-over if I think of stuff. I think I'm forgetting something. I'm not sure.
You haven't had any do-overs in the last couple of meetings. No, I have. Usually I can count on Councilmember.
I'm not done yet.
All right. I also, with Councilmember Burdock, I attended the ABC LPA meeting this last week. There wasn't really anything, I think, new going on. Still talking about the number of projects, including Highway 53 survey thing, which is why I asked for the 80 average daily travel cards, whatever. And it appears to me that we need that needs to be done desperately, so I'll be pushing that next meeting. It went on right along with the city manager Flora up into the Gobi area, looked at where the K-rail is going to go, and also looked at the K-rail after going in. One thing I noted that even, I think the more aggressive, and I want to compliment Chief White, your crews, more aggressive code enforcement, I guess, is probably doing it, but we're seeing lots that are being, the vegetation has been, brush is being removed, the trees are being trimmed up, the garbage is going away. I mean, it's a great start. I was happy to see that. And hopefully when we get the K-rail up and block it off, we get to start working on those other, the chop shop out there. But I do think that I'm already seeing positive things, albeit small ones at the moment out there. In addition to the ride along, I did a walk along with both, well, initially with Councilmember Harris, and then later on with City Manager Flora out of the park. To kind of look at the punch list of things that we still have left to do, and we discussed some of the things that Councilmember Harris and I noted the week before, and confident that those things have been noted even before my walk along, and will be addressed during the next few days. And then again, I did attend electronic, what was that called on Monday? The programs, the code.
Agenda management.
Municipal code crime.
Agenda management.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have me there because I'm the oldest person. I figure if I could understand it, it ought to be easy for the rest of the council. So,
We know that was it, right?
no, I'm pretty sure that was it. But it will be, going paperless, I think is inevitable, and it's the right thing to do. And I was I like the one the rest of the members there, with the exception possibly of city manager for the best. So that's my report. No do-overs? Good. Now, we're going to move on then to future agenda items. Anybody have something that they want to bring up at this
So I'll drag us back a little bit. I forgot to mention Worldwide Healing Hands and Elijah House as, and with the support of Adventist Health, we're going to be doing a giveaway next weekend. Check social media. I don't have the exact time yet, but we're looking at Saturday. I talked with the city manager. It would be essentially across the street in the Austin Resort parking area to give out personal supplies and things from fire evacuations and things. We've also sent quite a bit of materials to the Butte County areas that were impacted by their most recent lightning fires. So we'd like to support that. Things like shaving kits and shampoos and essentials, laundry soap, that type of thing. We'll be trying to get out to the public. So check social media, Facebook, Twitter, etc., and for the times.
What day again?
Saturday, probably. I think we're going to try to do the Lakeport area of the county. So anywhere from Hidden Valley, Clear Lake, obviously Lower Lake, Clear Lake Oaks. You're welcome to come and join us. We've got lots to give away. And then for future agenda items, I'd just really like to see our rental ordinance come back. Rental ordinance come back, if you would support me in that. And also looking again at concealed carry being issued through the city offices.
Thank you. Councilmember Harris.
I just wanted to mention that Rotary at their Christmas deal giveaway will be a drive-through kind of situation and walk-through. We are talking to Public Health Department to also provide flu shots again, and Dr. Thomas is on board with that already. It's going to be December 12th, I believe.
Councilmember Overton.
Yeah, you were talking about the parks. I would like to have on the agenda soon update on the parks and maybe some discussions of some things that are going on over there that we may or may not want to change. But I think it's time for us to kind of discuss what's been going on at all the parks and what's going to be going on. We've got art things going on. Maybe it's good to update the community on some of those things, but also just what's been going on at Austin Park. I've been getting asked a lot of questions. I think maybe it's the time for an update to the community and some discussion on where we move forward on the parks.
You want that separate from the neighborhood parks that we talked about?
Yeah, let's just go with the parks. So, just the regular, just our parks, our Highlands Park, our Austin Park, and the park.
So now we have an agenda item on neighborhood parks that you brought up last time, and you want to do the major parks. Okay. Okay, you get that one?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay.
I would just concur with Councilman Burdock, the rental inspection order. I know we're working on it. Thank you on the lineup.
I also concur with Councilmember Burdock and Councilmember Overton. There are a few things and the concealed carry. So, seeing no more future agenda items being suggested, I think we're done here. Adjourn at